Hello there. I think we're live. I think it is live. Okay, cool. So I'm live now, and I'm here to do a Q&A session. And the reason is because now I have 3,000 subscribers. As I mentioned, I think in the previous video that I was going to do this session, and because also I've been getting some questions back and forth, so I want to address them all in this video. And also, just I figured as a celebration, since I got 3,000 subscribers, which is weird. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I never. So when I initially set out with this channel, I told myself that I would go up until I got 700 subscribers, and then that will be it. I don't know what. Like I figured at that point I'd make it like a private channel or something, even though I don't think that exists, or something along those lines, because I figured I couldn't handle more than 700 subscribers, and it'll be way too much. And anyway, now I'm at 3,000, and it's not that bad. Obviously, because the way it works is like I have 3,000 subscribers, but it's not like all 3,000 are watching me at any point in time. So it's fine. It's very manageable, and I try to manage it. For all the questions and comments I get, I try to give a response, even though sometimes it takes some time. I feel like I can get to them eventually, like I'm doing now with this session. I'm going to get to some questions that have been asked recently, and so I thought I should address them. So let's get right into that while we're here. So first of all, formal and informal language. So I was asked about this, about how to deal with formal and informal language. Now, with translations, this comes about pretty often because most languages have a formal tense as well as an informal a way of speaking. And in fact, that I know of, all languages have them except English and Chinese. But all other languages have it, at least one level of formal and informal, like 2 levels, I guess. Some have many more, like Japanese and stuff like that. But formal and informal can always be an issue. And by and large, if you're translating from one language to the other, they both have formal and informal, then that's usually how you translate it. Obviously, if you're translating from English, it can be a bit more difficult because you need to decide if you need formal or informal. And that is why, quite frankly, you always translate into your native tongue, your native language, because then you know if it sounds natural. Oh, the person is talking to a teacher. If I spoke that way in my native tongue, then it would be formal, or whatever it might be. And so as long as it sounds natural, it sounds right in your native tongue, then that's how it should be. Usually if it's formal in the source language, and then it should be formal in the target language, by and large, that's the way. But as long as you're translating into your native language, you can pretty much tell. Another thing that I should mention is about Google Translate. I've talked about this many times in the past, that the reasons why you shouldn't use it, because the mistakes it makes, and that you use your copyright once it's on Google Translate, just because it kind of owns all the text there, because that's how it builds on it. But a big reason, just because I've seen this mistake, is precisely with formal and informal. Often Google Translate goes through English. And so the example I saw was the sentence was, I think in French or something, addressing the teacher, but using the informal. For whatever reason, they're saying, "Hey, professor, blah, blah, blah," using informal, and got translated into German. But in German, it was with the formal. And that's why is this? It's because it goes through Google Translate, which uses English. So it gets translated to English, and then from English into German. And for some reason, when it gets translated from English into German, well, because it uses all the past translations, that's what it builds on, it automatically decides, oh, this must be formal because it's addressing a teacher, something along those lines. Anyway, it can mix them all up, and since it goes through English, which has no formal or informal, all that gets messed up if you use Google Translate. So that's just another reason why you shouldn't be using it. So anyway, but otherwise, yeah, formal and informal can be an issue, but as long as you're translating into your native tongue, you can pretty much figure it out. I think that pretty much covers that. And then, another question, yeah, this was interesting. It was about translators who don't have English as their native language, since that's the main language for the translation market. And this is very true, because very often when you're contacting translation agencies or prospective clients, even if you translate, say, French to German, as I said, many times you're sending out these emails in English, and the correspondence is in English and whatnot. And so how do you deal with that, even though English isn't one of your main languages? Well, unfortunately, that's kind of how it is. So it'll depend. Obviously, if you're contacting an agency in Germany or in France, then chances are you can use French or German. But if you're contacting an agency anywhere else, Italy, US, Russia, whatever it might be, chances are you're going to be using English. And so, the best way to deal with this, first of all, all of you probably have an email template, and I know I've discussed this before, emails that you send out to prospective agencies and clients. These should always be written out correctly. They're almost always written out in English, no matter what your language combination is. And quite frankly, they should be written out correctly, even if English isn't one of your languages, because it just sounds more professional. I would have, if I were you, chances are someone who speaks English fluently, have them read over it, whatever you've written, just so it sounds more fluent when you send it out to the client. That one, it is kind of important, so I would try to put more effort into that. But from that point on, honestly, when the client contacts you back and you're emailing back and forth, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Even, in fact, I've seen people even just use like a machine translation or something like that, but just to communicate, because if English isn't one of your main languages, if you translate from French to German, but the client is speaking to you in English, at that point, they know it's not one of your main languages. And so you can reply and you can just use, unfortunately, some basis rudimentary English really kind of does apply. But as long as you have something basic, then it's enough for the email correspondence back and forth. So yeah, that's pretty much it. The email template that you send to prospective clients, that usually is kind of the same, but just a little bit tweaked in here and there for each client. That one, I would try to make sure that it's written in proper English. Have someone who speaks English natively kind of help you out with that if you can, at some point in time. Otherwise, for the rest of the correspondence, you will need a basic, form of English, unfortunately, especially for international agencies. But I wouldn't worry too much. I deal with plenty of people who English isn't their native tongue. We correspond in English, and it's fine. You can get the message across usually just with rudimentary English and what have you. So don't worry too much about that. And usually it'll be okay. At least that's how it's been with my experience. But yeah, unfortunately, even if English isn't one of your languages, you're going to have to deal with that. So next question. Actually, I just got a question now in the chat from Elia Gasparini. For an entry-level translator, would you suggest Upwork or Fiverr? I kind of like the latter more because it's based on your gigs, price included, while on Upwork, most of the clients pay very little. So now Fiverr and Upwork, actually that's an excellent question. Fiverr has changed a lot recently. So I wouldn't, well, okay. First of all, they're two very different things. Like she mentions here, or sorry, Adia, like you mentioned here anyway, the Upwork, the way the pricing works is, on Fiverr, you kind of get to decide the price. So if you're providing the translations, if you're providing the service, you kind of get to decide how much it'll cost, what the price is for it, and then you get paid for that. While with Upwork, it's kind of, you're bidding here and there for the jobs, and so the prices can be all over the place. Now, as far as I know, and that's why I say Fiverr has changed a lot. It used to be much cheaper on Fiverr, and you could definitely get paid more on Upwork. So it seems weird that that you would say that Fiverr you can get paid more. Quite frankly, I would think that that it would be the opposite. Anyway, I mean, obviously, wherever you can get paid more is better. However, both of these I would classify them as entry level. You want to eventually get into pros.com or translatorscafe.com. These are the main ones. And then depending on your language combination, there are other ones that are more country specific, but you want to get into one of these platforms that concentrates on translators. And that, to me, would be the main aim. Now, Upwork can be a step there because you kind of get a track record. But frankly, if you can get on one of those other websites, I would just try to start off there and see what you can do, because there you definitely get paid better than either Upwork or Fiverr. But yeah, once again, they're kind of different systems. That's the way it works. Upwork, you're kind of bidding. You don't know who else is applying with you, and so you're not sure. Fiverr, you offer usually a standardized product. Whatever, like you'll do X number of words or certain types of articles or whatever it is for a certain price. But most of the prices that I see there are quite low, and so that's why I usually recommend starting on Upwork, because at least it gives you more of a feel for how it goes. Maybe someone else has a different experience on Fiverr, then I'd like to hear about it. But I know that for me, that hasn't been the case. I don't think I've hired translators through Fiverr even. No, I don't think I have at all. So yeah, so I'm curious to hear if something's changed or if it's better now. But when I was there, it was kind of very rock bottom prices, and quite frankly, that it kind of got reflected in the quality you saw, and that's why I didn't hire anyone, for example. But this was, probably 4 or 5 years ago, so maybe things have changed a little, but that's how it used to be. Regardless, I would shoot for translatorscafe.com, pros.com, any one of those that concentrate on translation, because those will pay you more, and definitely, especially over the long term. So yeah, hopefully you found that helpful. So let's go on to the next question that I have. So some of these questions are a bit from all over, usually from comments or stuff that I've either comments or messages that I've received. So what else do I have? Okay, address English is not a native tongue. Oh, someone mentioned, because I mentioned books in one of the videos and said, that I'm just trying to push those books. Like I mentioned, like Tim Ferriss's book or something like that. So I kind of should make it clear at some point. I thought I made it clear all the time whenever I mention these, but I'm not sponsored by anyone. I don't get paid by anyone to do any of this. And I don't have any sponsors for this channel. If that would ever change, I'd let you know, but I don't think it is. Like, this isn't what I do for a living. I'm a translator for a living. And so I do these, I do these a bit, I do these when I can. And that's why sometimes I skip the videos, because I have other things going on. But yeah, anything I recommend, and like now when I said to check out pros.com or Translators Cafe, that had nothing to do with, obviously they're not paying me anything. Like they're just really what I recommend. Anytime I say anything good or bad about a company, it's something that's just how I feel. And the only time I have any interest in anything, it's something of mine. Like I talk about my course or my book, those are mine. So obviously I do have an interest in them, but I think that's kind of obvious when I mention it. But otherwise, yeah, I'm not being sponsored by anyone at any point in time. Anyway, I just thought I should mention that because it was one of the things that was brought up, and so I figured I'd address that. So what else do we have? Oh yeah, that one I just addressed. Okay. So I thought there was a message, but there's not. So what else? Oh, the best preparation for becoming a freelance translator. I'm not really sure. So I have actually, okay, if you go on this channel, I have a playlist called something like, if you're just starting out, for those who are just starting out, something like that. So I recommend checking out that playlist. It has a bunch of videos. Just look at them in order, and that should really help you for when you're first starting out as a freelance translator. Let's see if I can get the right name, because I forget what exactly. Anyway, I would call that, I would check that out. And if you're first starting out as a freelance translator, check out that playlist. It's available here on YouTube, so you might as well check it out. Here, I'll give you the exact name in just a second. Software interviews, motivation. No, I thought it was here somewhere. Oh, here, new to freelance translation. Start here. So if you go under my playlists, under this channel's playlist, there's one called New to Freelance Translation. Start here. It's a collection of 14 videos, which are among the videos that I've made, and they should really help you out with starting out, and the first thing, and how you should do. As a general rule, anyway, yeah, there are quite a few general rules. So I would check that playlist and see how to start out. But yeah, I'll still say, as a general rule, honestly, just start. I see way too many people delay and wait until the perfect time, wait until they've prepared this much or read this or done this or whatever. Just start. You're going to make mistakes no matter what. Everyone makes mistakes. I've talked about the mistakes I've made. You're definitely going to make the mistakes, and the best thing you can do is to make those mistakes quickly. So you get them out of the way, because the good thing is you usually don't make the same mistake twice, because when you make a mistake, you feel pretty bad. And so, you just keep going. And very seldom, hardly ever, is any of the mistakes like fatal, like, that none of those mistakes are going to ruin your career. I've made really stupid mistakes, and you bounce back. You feel like crap, but then you bounce back and you keep going. So, the best thing is to just get started. And again, look at the playlist, and there I talk about how to set up like your, the email template, how to contact people, your resume and all that for when you're setting out. But then, just set out and do it. Okay. Sorry. Now I have, anyway, I think that that addresses that more or less. Now I'm going to get a drink of water, actually. By the way, and for those of you, so this is a plug, but I do have a course that actually has everything, and a book, that details all the steps to take as a freelance translator, or at least I feel are all the steps to take, and I detail everything there in the order and however it is to be taken. For those of you who are interested. I have links all over the channel. I won't repeat them now. You can find them easily. Now I have another question from Mohammed Saad here on the chat. It says, regarding sending emails to agencies, is it okay not to write the fields of expertise, especially when you don't have one? So when when you're sending this first email, I assume it's like the email template that you send to all the agencies, and maybe you tweak a little bit here and there, but it's pretty much standardized. Usually, you can decide not to write a field of expertise. What I would say then is, I assume you have either some interest or a broad general expertise. Like you can say if you're not specialized in, like, say, finance or accounting or anything, but in general what you do is kind of business, you can say general business. Or you can say, I don't know, you can write general and then something next to it. If you really have no field of expertise, by the way, if you really have, a field of expertise doesn't have to be necessarily something you have a PhD in. It could just be something you've been studying aside from translation. When I first started out, I didn't have any training really in translation, but I had been in the financial world. I worked in banking and I worked in finance, and my degree was in finance. And so that's why that became my field of expertise, just because that's what I knew. So if you do have more experience in one field than another, I would put something, at least to have some sort of field of expertise. I know some people feel it kind of narrows it down and you might miss out on other stuff, but I do think it's better to show that. If you don't have any, you can leave it, leave it free, leave it empty. And especially at the beginning, it should be fine. It shouldn't make too much difference, just to kind of get the ball rolling and seeing what happens. But I would try to add one after a while, even if it just means after 5-10 translations you do, if you find that most of them tend to be, say, business or legal or literature or something like that, then I would start saying that that's your field of specialization, because and again, right field of specialization, not field of expertise necessarily, because in that way it'll be more honest. But at least there it shows that you have a certain concentration, and generally when most agencies, at least not all of them, most agencies, when they hire you, if they hire you to do, say, a legal translation or a business translation, they want someone who concentrates in either legal or business, and that's why it tends to help over the long term. But otherwise, when you're starting out, sure, leave it out. If you don't have a field of expertise or a field of specialization at all, then leave it out. And it's better than nothing to send something out, even if it's missing a field of expertise. But try to get one if you can. The sooner the better. I think it does help over the long term. I see I've been going almost 20 minutes now. So I don't know if I have. I mean, I just jotted down the questions that I had before, and I don't know if I have any left, actually. Wait. So the formal, informal, I addressed that. English is not a native tongue. I addressed that. Sponsor. I think I've pretty much addressed everything that I had, at least here in the notes. So hopefully that helps. Wait, let's see what else. Because I have another note here that says, regarding emails that aren't urgent, even though they don't say, that are urgent. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, no, but this has more to do with the course, and yeah, yeah, I'm not going to worry about that now. That's fine. But yeah, anyway, that's pretty much it. And yeah, we're right now at the 20-minute mark. So I'll let it go there. And hopefully this answered a couple of your questions. Thank you again for all you subscribers, to all of you for subscribing. It's 3,000 subscribers. Once again, that's a lot more than I thought I would have at any point in time. And I'm still not sure. I mean, for now it's manageable, so it's okay. Like I said, at the beginning, I didn't want it to get too big because I didn't want to I was scared of having too many subscribers, and so that's why I wanted to cap it at 700. Now I'm at 3,000, but it's manageable so far, so I like it, and I like being able to do this. Like I said, this isn't my job. I just do this extra, and I like being able to help people out whenever I can with whatever I do. So yeah, hopefully stuff like this helps out. And I see Mohammed said thank you. You're welcome. Yeah, I hope you find it helpful. And yeah, and otherwise I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Don't forget to like if you do. Thanks for the 3,000 subscribers. I'll see you at 4,000. Okay, bye. Savidum.